Hey, welcome back for another episode. We are here with our E46 project track car that we've been working on, and we have an exciting announcement. We are headed to the track for the first time, and
I'm driving.
So we're pretty excited to get Jay out there. You've seen him wrenching like crazy on this car, and I'm really excited to see what it can put down. I'm excited to see what you can put down, more importantly.
Love to see.
I'll take you for a ride. We'll see if I make you puke like everybody else. Okay, so we're back from a rather eventful weekend. First session, Mid-Ohio in the rain. If you are not familiar with our Midwest tracks, it's basically an ice skating drill.
And I've never driven on track before.
Yeah.
So this was our first experience on track in the rain in a BMW E46 that's not been shaken down or driven.
Friday I shook down the GTI for Ellen to make sure that she was good for her graduation test into getting her time trial license through that HPD program that NASA offers. So I didn't have time to shake down the E46, which became real evident in that first turn.
First turn, first lap, we spun.
Let me know when you feel it slide. Clutch in. That was a slide.
It was in the rain moment, everything was wet. We also didn't have the good Goodyear tires on yet. We were still waiting on wheels. So it was an eventful, kept it on track spin. All right, so after our spin in the first session, which was really us getting used to it, we started to run into some braking issues, which you will have just saw.
Put your brakes in before you start turning. Take fourth gear. Do this turn in fourth. You got it, look ahead. Keep it in the power, keep it in the power. Power, power, power. Now do your braking, then downshift, then brake again. That's pretty good. Try it again on this one. Braking. Downshift. Braking. Hey! See how much more control you have?
Yes.
Yeah, that was great, dude.
Where we were having trouble getting the downshift in and the clutch out. Kind of kept coasting through the turn, not quite getting that clutch in.
And that was, again, a lot of inexperience on track,
Yeah.
not knowing what I was doing. Over the course of the weekend, I think I really got that down better. But coming out of that long straightaway after keyhole, you're watching China Beach just come closer, 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 and your nerves start going. And you just then got to sort of slam on the brakes and hit the turn. And so that was an adjustment.
Or the curb.
And so that was a bit of an adjustment, but I think, again, it was just gaining more experience to figure that out.
Yeah, I think the previous owner also hit the curb probably in the same turn if I had to guess, because we re-dented the floor that we just hammered out in the build episode when we're a little too tight on that turn and on the curb. But I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of it is, and that's what's cool about the HPD program too with NASA, is that they teach you that they build that in stages. Like you're not supposed to just hop in there and be a Formula One driver on your first weekend. So it's about building that up, and you talk about the visual cues. In the video, you'll see me like, okay, try it at 500. Okay, that was good. Now go to 450, and this is on the braking zone, just shrinking them smaller and smaller.
Wait for it. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Squeeze. Squeeze. Go to the end. Go to the end. Go to the end. Good. Good.
By the end of the weekend, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, and a lot of it, again, figuring out the braking zone, when to brake, where to brake, and also like the braking threshold. How much pressure to apply, when to release it, when to put on the harder pressure in the beginning versus the end, things like that.
And that's what a lot of your drills were too, was giving you that dedicated time in that HPD1 environment to figure that out, so you're not trying to do it for the first time with a field of cars around you.
Yeah, and a lot of it too is figuring out how the car deals with those different braking zones and thresholds, because if I'm going into a straight and I brake, but I take it a little too far into the turn, I'm getting tail happy and it's trying to spin on me again.
Yeah.
And so there was a couple times where I had to save it from that.
And if you guys recall in the build video, Matt even warned us about that. It's a little tail happy with our broken ABS module. We did go through and try and replace, well, we did replace all the wheel speed sensors, but the ABS is still out. So we're gonna look at the module, which is a little bit more major surgery. So we're gonna have to just anticipate the twitchiness of the car going forward.
Yeah, and for when it did happen, I was able to anticipate it fairly well the rest of the weekend. We didn't have any more spins. We had a couple close ones, but I caught it and we were able to stay on track and keep going.
So first weekend back at Mid-Ohio, and we have the addition of the big wing. Hopefully we'll have some added downforce and pick up some speed in the corners. Since this is our first weekend back on track, I'm just going to try and get familiar with the car again and then do a checkoff ride this weekend to TT.
Boots? My boots? Look at them boots. What are those? Not too bad so far. I've only been on track once today and it was still pretty rainy and wet. So it was a very slow session. Everyone was getting a little squirrely but having fun. So I'm excited to get the car on track as it's dry. Yesterday we did test and tune and it was dry. I was slow, just, you know, building back up to where I was at last year because it's been however many months since October. So, you know, just working my way back up there. We'll hopefully do a checkoff ride tomorrow to go to TT. So fingers crossed the weather stays good. I know it's gonna be a little cold, but it should be dry. So we'll run these tires, the Supercar 3s for today, maybe later in the day, and then put the 3Rs on. Fingers crossed if it dries out this afternoon. If not, then tomorrow we'll run those.
Hopefully that big wing.
Big wing. We talked about taking a little of the angle out of the wing, but I haven't been able to tell yet, you know, if it's adding any downforce yet, just because I've been going so slow. So we'll adjust that maybe tomorrow after I've had a little more dry sessions under my belt.
So despite the wintry wet weather we've been having, I did pass my checkoff ride into TT. So next event, we actually have something special for you.
All right, so weekend 2, we're shaking the format up. You're gonna see weekend 1 and weekend 2 in this same episode. I was able to test and tune this car on Friday. So you had weekend 1 where it was kind of twitchy. For weekend 2, we put the Goodyears on and got rid of the Continentals. That was a huge change. The tires just stick. It's a great tire. So we're using the Eagle Exhilarates for a little bit of moisture as well as just to drive the car around. And then we have the Goodyear Eagle Slicks, like proper racing tire, that we'll use later in the year. But we put the Exhilarates on. I took Jay out for a session. And
that was something.
I don't think our mic is gonna pick it up. I had not heard a more colorful, poetic sentence of swear words than when we entered, I think it was Thunder Valley, over that blind crest where you're not exactly sure where the track is.
Yeah.
And I'm only going like 8/10, right? I'm shaking the car down, but I have a passenger and I'm just trying to show Jay the line and, well, cut to that.
Dude, this is slow, man. The Goodyears, the Exhilarate tires that we're using seem to have good grip.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a lot of fade out of them like we were on the Continentals. I mean, it's doing great for 243,000 miles. This is definitely a braking a straight line car.
So after all of this, I have a lot of time in various cars, so we were able to make some adjustments.
Yeah, we loosened the dampening or softened the dampening on our H&R coilovers after that, which was great because it's so easy to adjust. They've got the adjustments in the rear, you just get right through it in the trunk and it's right underneath in the front. We went basically from full stiff to almost full soft, but not quite. It made a huge difference.
Yeah, and after talking with the other Spec E46, Anessa has a really big Spec E46 community. We were able to get some other setup details from them to help. I guess when the ABS module fails, it being rear happy is pretty common knowledge. My first E46, I don't think you've had one either, so we're learning as we go. You guys are kind of seeing that evolution. But yeah, so we softened it. They also, I have a present for you. I hid it up here. They also recommended that we convert to the brass bushing kit, which is a kit we sell. But for the rears, we're getting a little bit of hang up and braking. I hereby bestow upon you a brass bushing kit.
Thank you, because we're not only just getting hang up and braking, but there became a very loud, distinct clunking coming from the rear braking, where they would actually grip and hit.
There, and still while I'm braking, I'm getting the downshift.
No, you're just not using the
Yeah.
because of the plastic bushing kits that were on there.
You see us looking at the rear of this car probably most of weekend 2 trying to figure it out.
We weren't sure if it was the diff or the brakes, what was going on. We didn't know if our sway bar or our control arms were hitting, but talking to the other guys, we figured out it was our brake kit. And so now we were gonna get this on when we head to Gingerman.
Yep, and that will replace the rubber bushings in the rear, which get hot and sticky. So they were recommending we change over to this kit now, even though we're not at race pace. It'll just help dissipate that heat, keep the rears from locking, and hopefully make the rear not as touchy for Gingerman, which is nothing but turns.
And these look pretty beefy. So
yeah, those
I've
are
got
real beefy.
Some high expectations.
Now that I'm in TT, I will no longer be driving the GTI, but I actually have the opportunity to drive the Force Mazda 2. And here's Marlon to tell you a little bit about the car.
The story behind the car is this car was specifically built for my wife. And what you see on the logo here is Force. It has to do with hereditary cancer. Well, she lost her 8.5-year battle with ovarian cancer. So one of the things that my wife Lori wanted to do was to promote more women in the motorsports. So last year we had our first person go in, Chris Lozanecki, who's an instructor here. We ended up winning our class regionally, and that the year before we were second, the year before that we were second, so we got over the hump last year. So every year going forward, we're always going to add another woman to drive this car. So whether they want to do TT or getting wheel to wheel, that's the whole purpose behind it, and to give people opportunities that, especially women that wouldn't have an opportunity to do this. It's not cheap. Force is behind us. They actually pay, we're going to nationals, so the first time we'll be in nationals. And it's more about spreading awareness so people can get genetic testing so they don't have to go through everything we went through for 8.5 years. The expense of dealing with cancer is not cheap, considering some medications are anywhere from $15,000 to $18,000 a dose. So it's a way to get the word out, and what better representation to have somebody who started out in one and work her way all up to TT, and if she decides to go to wheel, that's fine. But it's about building relationship, bringing awareness, like we said, one race at a time, one track at a time, and I'm really excited to have Ellen with me because watching her grow as a driver, I think is a perfect fit. Even though she's losing about 250 horsepower driving this thing that has 100 wheel horsepower, but it's one of the most fun things to drive on 4 wheels. So
yeah, I'm super excited. I can't thank Marlon and the Force team enough. Really, I didn't have enough time to get to know Lori. I met her a couple of times, but I know my first time here at the track, I saw her get into the car. She was getting all ready, and I was like, dang, I hope that's me one day. And I can't thank them enough for giving me this opportunity to keep going in my career. So I'm excited to make them proud, make Lori proud.
Yeah, she's there. She's always with us, whether it's the sticker on the car, and like you see all the stickers on the other cars. She meant a lot to a lot of people, and later we're going to go over, a year ago they planted a tree. The Midwest Miata Parts people planted a tree in her memory, so she'll always be at her favorite track. So, and definitely want to chronicle the journey of Ellen going through the steps here through time trial. She's about to get her baptism under fire. So with cars that may have 10 times the horsepower of this car, but the main thing is about having fun. And like I said, whether we're first, whether we're last, doesn't matter. If we save one life by somebody getting tested, then we've done our job. And Force is actually the official charity, NASA Great Lakes. So.
Now that I've had a couple sessions on track in the Mazda 2, here are some of my thoughts about the car setup.
First time in the car, so it's kind of just getting a feel for it. Setup is somewhat similar to the GTI in that it's front wheel drive. It did push a lot, but that's why they don't have a front sway bar on the car, so it's actually really loose going around turns. So I can really push and add throttle to kind of power out of them, more so than I would say the GTI. It's just so much heavier and has a little more understeer than this does. So it's fun to compare the two. So much lighter, way less power. So I'm just full throttle trying to come out of corners, but it's a lot of fun and I can't wait to keep getting better. Honestly, we'll see how it goes.
After an exciting weekend in my first TT event, I actually was able to take home second place on Saturday in TT6, but I'm looking forward to continuing to learn the car and excited to see what we're able to do for Force.
All right, be sure to come back next week when we're at Gingerman Raceway in South Haven, Michigan.
Because we have a big surprise for the GTI. Like, comment, subscribe so you don't get left behind.